Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Rachel.
We're the Pools, and this is Wine with Us. Cheers. So today we're going to whine about bad airline experiences. I know everyone has definitely had these. Some are a little bit more horrific than others. So I'm going to start with one of mine that I had earlier this year. I was flying on Spirit, which is mistake number one in this story. Flying Spirit from Washington, D.C. to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. So, you know, Mardi Gras takes place over a 12-day period, but the main, weekend is the weekend leading up to Fat Tuesday. So my flight leaves in the early afternoon. I have a layover in Atlanta. Get to Atlanta. My flight has been delayed,
Shocker.
which is fine. Whatever, it happens. We're in Atlanta. Everything is delayed in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it's delayed a significant amount. So I go to one of the bars, drinking some Sam Adams. I think I got something to eat. The whole time I'm keeping tabs on the time of my flight. Like, I have it up on my phone. I have access to a monitor so I can actually see what's coming up. And I noticed, maybe an hour before my flight's supposed to board at this delayed time, I noticed that Google just switched the time to earlier. And so I'm like, okay, this is a little weird. I should probably go over to the gate just to be sure. So I get over there, and the flight door is closed. And the time on the screen still says the postponed, the delayed time. So at first I was like, well, the flight door's closed. There is a plane there, but there's still people hanging out in the area. So I asked someone, I was like, oh, is this the flight from Atlanta to New Orleans? Like, yeah, we're still waiting. I'm like, well, this is weird because the flight door's closed and I just saw something on my phone. I don't know. So we go to the desk and we talk to the very unfriendly, hey Simon, the very unfriendly agent. And we're like, hey, what's going on? She's like, oh, it boarded already. I'm like, what time did it board? Oh, it boarded at the original time. It still says on the board the delayed time, that we haven't boarded yet, that nothing has happened. So it still says that on the board. It still says that everywhere else in the airport. And nowhere in the airport does it say that it's already boarded. There was no call. There was no nothing. So
no
announcement. And then everyone in the area starts to understand what happened, that the flight is leaving without us because, the FAA regulation is that once the flight door closes, you cannot reopen it. So
That sucks.
yeah, there were at least 30 of us, at least 30 of us.
How many people pitched a real fit? Not just are you kidding me kind of thing?
There were probably 5 people who were having a tantrum.
Did you have a tantrum or were you?
I did not have a tantrum because my head then went to, okay, I can't get on this flight. So now it's how do I get to New Orleans?
Right.
I'm no longer, I'll figure that stuff out later.
Did they refund you at all? No.
The only thing I did really well in this scenario was I booked travel insurance. For some reason, I had a feeling that something was going to go wrong. And as a rule, I normally do not book on Spirit or Frontier unless absolutely necessary because they nickel and dime you for everything. And then the customer service is horrible. The gate agent, she was like, oh, we'll rebook you on the next flight out. It's on Monday. And I was like, okay, I'm scheduled to fly back to DC on Monday. The event that we're trying to go to, that every single human that was trying to get on that plane, is Mardi Gras. And all of that stuff is going to be, we all have to get back to work on Monday. Are you effing kidding me? She was not kidding.
So wait, what day were you flying out on?
Friday.
Oh. And they were saying the next flight out was in a few days?
Was on Monday.
Oh my God.
So I am there's a couple of girls that are all together that were chatting, and I went over and I started talking to them, and they're like, oh, there's a Southwest flight that does this, a Southwest flight that'll, they're just looking at flights that are leaving Atlanta to get to New Orleans that same afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately just forget the Spirit stuff. I call Southwest. I figure out what terminal they're in the Atlanta airport, and I start heading that direction. I'm on the phone with a wonderfully nice woman. I wish I could remember her name. And I'm like, hey, Spirit just completely screwed me over and like 30 other passengers, so I'm sure you guys are going to get inundated with phone calls soon. But I'm pretty sure you guys have a couple seats left, leaving in the next half hour from Atlanta to New Orleans. I want to buy a ticket. And she was like, yeah, if you can get over there, we have one that's going to be boarding in like 10 minutes. Like, I can put you on that. Yes, do it, please. Amazing. So I'm like running through the airport, reading her my credit card information as I run through the airport. Yeah, it was bad. But Southwest, I got on that flight. It was great. It was, not cheap because it was that weekend, right. So it was crazy. But got there, met a really cute guy who I still think is like a missed connection because I didn't have the, real guts to sit next to him on the plane.
You gotta get over that.
But he was so sweet. Yeah, I know I do.
0.5 seconds that you saw him.
You mean I have to get over him?
No!
So
get over.
I'm not like actually pining about over him. I just it's one of those things.
Get over the you just gotta sit next to the cute guy on the flight.
I have a problem.
You would read that in a book.
I know, I have a really big problem. But anyway, so that flight experience was so much better. And it was hysterical because while we're waiting to board the Southwest flight, so many other passengers are like, did something happen with like a Spirit flight? Like, we keep hearing all these people complaining about something that happened. It's like, oh yeah, I was supposed to be on that flight. I can tell you exactly what happened. Like,
let me tell you.
This is my thing. I can totally understand if they delay a flight and then they update all the information in the airport and then I miss it. I get that. That's my fault. But
yeah,
if they delay it and then they put it back to the original time and they don't update any of the systems, like the fact that their own system still said that we were leaving at 4 and it left at 3:30, like, it's just so ridiculous to me and so unhelpful. Terrible customer service.
So you'll never book a Spirit flight again?
Ever again. Unless it is the only airline flying out to a certain destination. Mm-hmm. Like, I will just not go through that. The fact that, like, when customer service is bad, it just leaves such a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need, like, I love JetBlue because their customer service is amazing. Like, when anything goes wrong, you're not waiting forever to hear back from them. Like, they care about their customers. Like, Spirit, you guys just don't care at all.
Yeah.
Especially if it were also just me, then like, all right, I'm SOL, I screwed this up. But no, there were 30 people. Like, how do you leave 30 people and not think like, oh, we haven't updated this, or oh, we haven't sent a message out across the airport, like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and on and on and on. Please report to flight number whatever because you haven't gotten here yet. And then it's like, oh, let me think. Have we updated everything? Oh, no, we haven't. Maybe we should do that. Anyway.
You good?
Yeah, that's my rant.
All right. So I usually fly American, JetBlue, or Southwest. And our uncle likes to call Southwest Southworst. But I haven't had
see that.
Yeah, I haven't had a bad experience with Southwest yet. Besides, it's just like the loading style, but it is what it is.
But that's what you go into it knowing that that's the situation, and then you can also mentally prep.
I shout out to JetBlue because they're the only airline that loads correctly.
Yeah.
Like you load in the elderly and the babies and whatnot, but then they load in
back
to the front. Like, mind blowing, because that actually makes sense. Like,
I know.
Love them so much.
I do love them too.
All right, so my story is I was flying on Delta. I don't know why I'm trying to drink now. So every summer I go up to the Thousand Islands in way upstate New York to visit my best friend and her family. And so one year I was flying up, and this vacation, it means the world to me. Like, it's my Christmas, and I only get a certain amount of days allotted to go and do it. Hi, Simon. And so, like, it's a very important vacation for me. So I get to my connecting flight. I fly from Orlando to LaGuardia in New York, and the sun is shining, everything is great, flight is delayed. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting at a bar, and just hanging, chilling. And the flight is delayed for 3 hours, and I keep on checking, and they're like, we're just gonna reschedule it, whatever. After 7 hours of waiting and them just delaying, they finally cancel it. I should have been in upstate New York, landed in Syracuse, driven the 2 hours to get to my friend's cabin. I'm not driving, my best friend's mom picking me up is driving. But like, I should have been there and on the river already. And nope, 7 hours later, the flight is canceled. It's now probably 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, okay, well, talking to the Delta lady, I was like, when is the next flight that I can get out on? Oh, tomorrow at 2:30. And by the way, there's no hotels in the city that are booking. You have to go outside the city to stay. All the hotels are full. And I was like, what? Okay. No, that's not gonna fly because that's already like a day and a half or just a full day into my vacation. And I was only gonna be there for a few short days. And again, I take my vacation very seriously.
As you should.
Yeah, so I'm talking to the Delta lady, and I'm like, well, can you at least refund me? Like, the way that my checking account works, you know? Like, I'm in college, like, you know, working 3 jobs for money. And she was just like, well, no, it's a weather issue, so we don't cover that. And I was like,
hate that stipulation.
I was like, what? I'm Google weather, Apple weather, all of the weather. Like, what is going on,
Well,
Delta?
it doesn't even have to be the weather at the airport you're at. It could be weather anywhere in the entire country. And then it's like, oh, there's a weather delay because the plane is stuck at wherever because of whatever weather is happening there.
After that experience, I was like, no more connecting flights unless I absolutely have to. But so it still gets better, the story. So I am in New York now, stranded with, apparently there's no hotels in the city, and I'm like looking out in New Jersey and other places to get a hotel. And again, I'm traveling by myself, and I'm like a little pinching pennies with money at the time. And so my best friend's mom, I'm like keeping her in the loop, and she's like, how about you take a Greyhound bus? And I was like, okay. So either, I'm pretty sure they end up like buying my Greyhound bus ticket, which I love them to death, the Rodenbecks. They're the most amazing family on earth, besides obviously our family. And there are other great families too, but they are fantastic. And so my Greyhound bus though doesn't leave until midnight. So I'm like calling my parents, just letting them know what's up. I'm just like sitting in the airport. And finally, Elizabeth calls me, and she's like, hey, one of my good friends lives in New York. You can, you know, like take an Uber to her place. She'll like entertain you until you have to go to the Greyhound station. I'm like, okay. So I show up at Natalie's apartment. Thank you, Natalie. And she greets me, and she's like, beer or wine? Which one do you want? I was like, I'll just take a beer. Thank you very much. And she actually introduced me to one of my favorite beers now, which is the Boston Brewery.
How about
Yeah,
that?
Boston beer. Thank you, Natalie.
Wow.
So her and I were just sitting, talking, hanging out until I had to leave and go to the Greyhound station at midnight in New York City by myself.
Stressful.
Yes. So I get over there. Natalie like walks me out, watches me get in the cab and everything. I finally get to the station. I have to go to the restroom real quick. There's a woman next to me in the restroom, and I just hear the pull of the toilet paper like nonstop. I'm like, are you taking the entire roll? And I'm pretty sure she was stuffing it in her bag, which, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
You do.
But I was very terrified that I was going to get attacked. Like, I'm a very level-headed, realistic thinker, and like, I travel a lot by myself. I've traveled a lot by myself ever since I was like in 8th grade. So I'm cautious.
Yeah,
and very
you're aware. You're aware of your surroundings.
But I was like, oh my God, like someone is going to cut me. And luckily I ran out of the bathroom and finally boarded my midnight metro bus. I sat at not metro bus, my midnight Greyhound bus, sat in the very front, like as close to the driver that I could get to. And we began our journey. And I was supposed to get to my destination at 8 a.m. the next morning. So, so I've already been up for now a very long time because
so
my flight that day was early in the morning because, again, I'm trying to get on vacation and I try and make the most out of my vacation.
Right.
So I take those like 5 a.m. flights so I can get somewhere at a decent time. Anyways, Delta,
Well, did you get in at 8?
you build some character. Yes, so I was taking my one Greyhound bus and then I had to get off and you transfer over to another Greyhound bus because I was going so far up north of New York. The second bus that I got on, let me paint you a picture. I am wearing, again in college, I am wearing a hot pink, like a highlighter pink, Victoria's Secret pink, like zip up like sweater jacket thing, and yoga pants. And I have my suitcase, and my suitcase broke at some point during my transition of everything.
Forgot about that.
And so like the pull thing, that pull bar, one of the bars broke. So I'm like lugging around my luggage, and that's the time that I like excessively overpacked. I still overpack, but I'm getting a little better. But I just look like a clown, like a delusional clown. And so the second bus that I'm getting on, probably around 5 a.m., the gentleman who was standing like checking all our tickets, he's like, "You're not from around here, are you?" And I was like, "No, I'm not."
How can you tell?
And he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I'm on spring break." And he was like,
"But really, what are you doing here?"
"What?" And as I'm getting on the bus, I'm looking around, and it's all long beards and straw hats, and there's a little bit of an odor, and I am on a 100% Mennonite bus. And I was like, well, I feel safe as hell. And everyone is staring at me like,
who are you and why are you here?
right, like, why are you getting on this bus?
Yeah.
But I walked my happy ass onto the bus, sat in the back this time with all the Mennonites. I didn't make any friends, which I probably should have. I would have really liked to learn about their culture. But I kept to myself, and then I realized I was wearing my leggings inside out the entire time. But finally,
that's why they were staring at it. You're like, oh my gosh, this girl doesn't know how to put leggings on properly.
her luggage is broken, her leggings are inside out, and she's in a highlighter pink
What a
jacket.
hot mess.
Yeah. So finally, I get to Watertown, and that is still not my actual destination, but that's where the Greyhound drops you off at. So my best friend's mom picked me up at 8 o'clock in the morning. But you know, it built character. I survived the Greyhound. I now am like, I can take a Greyhound bus, whatever. Like I feel like I got some street smarts.
Yeah.
So thank you, Delta, but not thank you, because I'm still a little upset about the weather thing. And also because being in college, I didn't have much of a backbone. So when I'm like trying to tell the woman, I was like, no, like I don't think that this is right kind of thing. I was like quivering and like on the verge of tears and couldn't stand up for myself. Or nowadays I'd be like, hey, so you guys are making a lot of money off of this anyways because you're overselling your shit or your planes.
Right.
So I feel like you can at least give me a little bit of money back to help me get on another flight, especially if you can't fly me out until the afternoon
The following day.
of the following day, which like you're all in, like everyone has their own little agendas. I get it, whatever. But yeah, that was my experience. And I think that's the only experience that's like memorable for me.
I've had a few, but the stories are way too long to go into.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think all of them, it does build character. And
Yeah.
it makes you realize, A, that you can like figure it out.
Right.
You know, like
There's always
figured
some
it
other
out.
way
Like
of
there are
transportation.
alternatives. There are ways to figure it out.
Yeah. And sometimes, actually nowadays, since going through all of this stuff and like especially that one flight and everything, when flights get delayed and whatnot, it's fun for me to like look at how other people deal with
React,
it.
yeah.
Because recently I was on a flight and we had a weather delay and we're on the tarmac already. And I was upset about something else, so I was in my own world anyways. But like all these people are getting so exasperated over everything, and I'm just like, it'll take off. It's fine. And like the captain was like, you know, like the only reason why we're not taking off is because a week ago a plane did take off and they got struck by lightning and da 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 da. And I was like, okay, Captain, thank you. Like,
And thanks for telling me that because I totally needed to know that.
well, I mean, some people I feel like they probably need to know because they're like, it's just rain. We're like, you know, weather is a thing to probably pay attention
No,
to.
it
when
is,
you're
and
in
it
the
is
air.
important. I mean, I was on a flight from Denver back to DC. It was originally supposed to be like at the end of the day on a Friday, and I had gotten an alert from Southwest earlier in the morning when I checked my flight that there was a potential that it would be delayed or canceled due to weather in the DC area. So I called and I got bumped up to an earlier flight, and I got to the airport and it was delayed, but we got on. I was very worried it was going to be canceled, but we got on, and when we were on and the captain and the crew was talking to us, I was much more aware that like, oh, this is actually something that could legitimately be a problem. Just the way that they were discussing it and handling it. And then I think that they tried to oversell how bad the flight could be. so that when it was bumpy and there was turbulence, we were expecting a lot worse. And when we landed, the weather was horrible in DC.
Yeah, it was.
So I don't know. I can understand it. I think the main thing that irritates me about airlines is they are not very transparent.
No.
You know,
Not transparent, and their customer service.
Yeah, their customer service is
Usually
awful,
is not good.
with the exception of very few airlines.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think all it takes, like, customer service is not hard. I work in customer service, and while it can be emotionally exhausting, it's not difficult to teach employees that the customer comes first. And you're always going to have that customer who's going to be awful,
Right.
you know, who you really can't please. But it's even just, like, in the way that you communicate
Right.
that could be
It could
better,
change an
could
entire
make,
thing.
make an experience completely different.
Absolutely. So
but
cheers.
those are our experiences.
yeah, cheers to traveling.
Cheers to traveling.
Because it's totally worth it. After all of the delays and whatnot, you still get to your destination.
And
you
you
still
still have
go
a
on
good
your
time.
adventure.
Yeah.
But, you know, go ahead, subscribe to us, follow us, do all those things,
Like
like
us.
us. And also leave comments below on your horrific
Yes,
airline
tell us about your bad
experiences.
airline experiences.
Yeah, so, and I'm traveling this Thursday, so I'll let you know if anything more horrific than just having to get on a Greyhound bus, which I wouldn't call that horrific, but when I was younger
At
and
the
not
time.
expecting it, I was a
Stressful.
little bewildered. Yeah. So now, when I go up there, I'm like just kind of preparing myself to possibly have to do that.
Yeah. Well,
But,
hopefully not.
yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But cheers to traveling.
Cheers to traveling.
Wanderlust.